Hey guys, it's Gianna, Midwifay, and little baby Chloe here. Today I wanted to finally record my full birth story for how little Chloe came into this world. Let's take a listen. As always, I want to encourage you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me know which videos you guys like and what other content you want. So please go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't already. So many people have been asking for the story of how this little girl came to be born unexpectedly at home, even though I'm an experienced midwife, having my third baby. And I just think that it was a mix of denial and distraction and a sequence of events that unfolded, and it was just the way God intended it to be for some reason. A little background before I get started on the full birth story is I prepared a lot for this birth in a mental and spiritual way, more so than I did for the last two. And I think it's because of a variety of factors, but partially because my second birth was an induction, and there were a lot of parts of it that I just really felt disconnected from, and I did not enjoy that experience. I'm grateful that we were both healthy, and that's great. But I really wanted this third, my last birth, to be different. I wanted to really feel the power of my body and my baby working together. I wanted to be kind of fully in control. So I had done a lot differently to prepare. I even really strongly considered home birth at one point, and I brought it to Evan a couple of times. We talked about it, and it just didn't make sense for us financially, as well as, Evan was not comfortable having a home birth, entirely, and I wasn't 100% sold. I did think that I would want it, but either way, we said no to the home birth. We were just going to go to the local hospital with midwives where my second son was born, but we agreed that we would basically do everything, labor at home as long as possible, that I can just show up essentially pushing a baby out. So that was my plan. Part of what I did to prepare, I listened a lot to positive birth stories, specifically positive home birth stories, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos of home births. That was my way, I think, as a hospital birth worker especially, to clear my mind of bad things and just watch totally normal births go totally normal. So again, I really focused a lot on home birth during this pregnancy, and my coworkers probably know I joked a lot about it. I tried to educate people about home birth because I think that home birth is a great option for a lot of low-risk families. When you have a supportive team and midwives and people there present with you. I was not planning or trying to have a birth without anyone in attendance, no matter where that was. I don't think that that's safe. So anyways, that's just a little bit about the background of kind of how I prepared for this birth. And I guess maybe kind of willed it into existence that she was going to be born at home. She was born on February 13th at 11:32 p.m. For those of you that don't remember, February 13th was Super Bowl Sunday, and obviously the next day, Monday, was Valentine's Day. And so funny, my husband and I kind of joked throughout the pregnancy. She was due February 21st. So I was like, really? I don't care as long as I don't go over my due date and as long as she isn't born on Valentine's Day. Those were like the two things that I didn't want. So February 13th comes around, and it's a normal Sunday. We're home with the boys, and I am having cramping all day, but like regular Braxton Hicks tightenings that I've always had. However, these were more regular, I'd say, probably starting a little bit before the boys' nap time, a little bit, maybe like 11 a.m. They were like every 10 minutes or so versus sporadic throughout the hour. But again, they didn't hurt at all. They were just tightenings. I chalked it up to getting ready for the Super Bowl. We were having some neighbors over that night, so we were kind of cooking and getting the house ready. So I was doing a little more activity. So I took a nap when the boys went down for a nap. I took a bath before that, took a nap, and it was like, they'll go away. It's fine. No big deal. I woke up from the nap. They're still there, these cramps, still every 10 minutes, still just like tightening. Again, not painful, not uncomfortable, nothing more than what I had been feeling, but just regular. I guess that's the only difference. So come time for Super Bowl or so, our friends came over around 5 p.m. They came over with their son, who goes to daycare with our kids, and they were all just playing. We're all watching the Super Bowl. We're eating, having a good time. Nothing abnormal's going on for me. I mean, again, still those tightenings, but not painful. I'm able to talk to friends, do everything like normal. Just a normal Super Bowl Sunday with some cramping. Around 7:30 or so, our friends leave, which is halftime at Super Bowl, and they leave because they want to go put their baby down. And I remember when I walked them upstairs from the basement to the front door, that's the first time that one of those cramps that I had been feeling felt a little bit more like a menstrual cramp, and I bent over the entryway table actually, and my friend was like, Gianna, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine, no big deal. So that was the first time that they kind of changed, but still totally tolerable, just maybe a little bit more like a menstrual cramp than just a tightening. So our friends left, we put the boys to bed, and you know, honestly, my older son, he's almost 3, Jacob, we read a book at night about when his sister comes and how our cousin's going to come be with him because mommy and daddy are going to go to the hospital to welcome baby Chloe. And we didn't read the book that night, but I just felt the need to tell him, like, hey, remember when baby Chloe comes, cousin's going to be here. And, you know, I just went through that with him for some reason. Again, I don't know. I just was like, maybe just in case things are going to start, I want him to know that mommy and daddy won't be here in the morning. So Jacob was aware apparently, and I wasn't. So we've put the boys down to bed. My husband and I go back downstairs to the basement to watch the halftime show. And again, these cramps, I keep calling them, are feeling more like menstrual cramps. I'm sitting on our birth ball that I have down there, watching the Super Bowl halftime show. We all know how great it was, reminiscing about old times, you know, when we were listening to all that music. And I'm bouncing on the ball, and I'm like, these are feeling a little more like menstrual cramps. But I'm crazy. I didn't tell him. I don't know why. I just didn't. And so I'm bouncing, watching the show. And it ends, and I'm like, you know what, babe? I'm going to go clean up a little bit in the kitchen, and then I'm going to go take some Tylenol, maybe something to help me sleep, because I'm having cramps. So I told him I was having cramps, but that's all I told him. So I go upstairs, wash some dishes, turn on my podcast that I like listening to, and honestly, this is when I could have told him a little bit more, because as I'm starting to wash dishes, the every 10 minutes turns into every 5, okay? I'm washing dishes, I'm walking around, I am stopping, but they're not so uncomfortable that I can't like talk or I have to change my breathing. I kind of have to stop and sway a little bit with them. So I'm washing the dishes and maybe every 5 or 7 minutes stopping to have a menstrual cramp type of a thing. Again, you guys, I don't know. I'm thinking, okay, if this is the real deal, it's going to make itself known. Let me just keep distracting myself. Let me just play the denial game. Keep washing my dishes. And to be honest, a big part of it too was this is like 8:30 at night now. I did not want her to be born on Valentine's Day, so I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't be starting tonight because I don't want her to be born tomorrow. So denial, distraction, I don't know, a lot. All of those things mixed together. So I finish cleaning up, come upstairs, I take some Tylenol, and I lay down. I lay down with my, leg up on my pillows. I put on my Christian hypnobirthing soundtrack. I love that, guys. I fell asleep to that kind of throughout my whole pregnancy. And I'm playing that, and to be honest, I always fall asleep like halfway through. I've never heard the end of it. So she's getting to the end of it because she says, okay, we're going to go on to the next thing. And I'm like, why am I still awake? I'm still awake because I'm having cramps, aka contractions, Gianna. So then I played it again. It's like a 17-minute long, I think, track. So I played it again. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now. So I'm playing it again. And then I start to admit to myself, okay, these are starting to cause me to breathe a little bit differently. I'm still awake. I probably should let Evan know something's happening. So that's what I did. I called my husband. He was downstairs finishing the Super Bowl, and we still disagree on how this conversation went. I thought that I had told him, hey, these cramps are still coming, aka maybe I'm starting labor. And again, I kept saying cramps. I don't know why I just never used the word contraction. I just didn't. And so he's like, okay, do you want me to come upstairs? Do you need something? You know, do you think this is real? And I was like, you know, I'm just gonna try and sleep. But when you do come, bring the birth ball, okay? So he was like, okay. So thank God he came up like 2 minutes later, because when he came up, he noticed that I was moaning and breathing differently through them. So, you know, he's seen me through 2 other labors, right? So he's like, Gianna, these are cramps. These are contractions. Are you timing these? Like, listen to how you sound. And to be honest, you guys, that's really like the first time I was totally cognizant of the fact that I was like kind of moaning and breathing differently. I guess I was kind of probably in and out of sleeping a little bit while I was having them listening to the Christian hypnobirthing tracks. So he was like, yeah, you sound like you're in labor. We need to, you know, start moving things along. And I was like, okay, yeah, you know, start putting your stuff by the bag. Like, I think that's a good idea. So shortly after he came upstairs, I'm still in the bed on my side, and I feel a big pop and a gush, and I'm like, yep, that's it. That's my water breaking. So I knew immediately. Obviously now the denial's over. We called our cousin who lives like 20 minutes away, who was gonna come and be with the boys. It's 10:30 when my water broke. So she was gonna come be with the boys to be able to take them to daycare in the morning and all of that. So we called her to let her know, yep, definitely it's go time. We need you to come. I got up. I went to the bathroom to put on my adult diaper. That's what I like to use in labor when my water breaks. And, you know, everything was fine. And then I literally came and sat right here in this rocking chair while Evan was getting things together and we were waiting. So, of course, once my water broke, things definitely intensified. I'm sitting on this rocking chair. He had brought up the birth ball. I had, you know, wanted all these positions that I wanted to do, but I was just like, you know what? I'm just waiting for Paige to get here, or cousin, to get here. I'm gonna sit right here. I had my heat pack on and I just sat here and I deep moaned and breathed as best as I could. And honestly, I don't know. They were intense, but I was thinking like, okay, I'm gonna be like 5 or 6 centimeters dilated. My water is broken. As soon as she gets here, we'll get in the car. The hospital we plan to give birth at is like 7 minutes away, door to door. So perfect, I'll get there. I'll be ready to just push her out. No big deal. So I had 2 really strong contractions here and I felt so much more fluid come out. Like, I'm like, oh gosh, I just filled the diaper, the chucks pad, my shirt is wet. Like, whatever those were did something. We gotta go, let's go. I get up and I look at the fluid and the fluid has turned to greenish brown, guys. So I started to get really concerned. That's meconium. That is a baby having bowel movement inside, and that can be a sign of distress. So here I am at home, like needing to go to the hospital, waiting for a cousin here. I didn't know she was here already by this point. So Evan's helping me get to the bathroom to change, to get to go. And he sees that I'm worried on my face because of the color of the fluid. And he's like, what's going on? Like, explain to me. Why are you worried? And in that moment, as I'm like sitting on the toilet to change everything, I'm like, oh gosh, my body is pushing. I'm like questioning, like, oh my gosh, am I needing to push? I'm trying to check myself. I'm bending over the toilet, putting my fingers in to see if I can feel baby's head. And Evan's like, what's going on? You need to talk to me. And I'm like, I need to push. So then the next contraction, I like really is starting to bear down and I can't control it. And I told him, you know, you need to call 911. The baby's going to be born here. And he was like, no, let's go. Let's just go to the car. And I said, if you get me up, the baby's going to be born in the car or on the way out to the car. So call 911. The baby's coming. God bless my husband. He just jumped into action, called 911, told our cousin who was here, bring some towels. We're calling 911. The baby's coming. The next contraction, she was crowning. So then he was like, oh, you're serious? Like, really? So I'm like standing by the toilet, he's kneeling down, and you know, we're both concerned because of the meconium. You know, I get it wasn't meconium initially and it has turned to meconium, so I'm trying to communicate that this could be a sign of distress for her, but I didn't want him to be worried, but I'm worried in my head, but I'm also trying to be the birthing person and just keep calm and deliver the baby. So it was like 37 seconds of stress. But if anyone's been in births, you know, it seems like these seconds, minutes can feel like hours. So it felt like so long that I was crowning. And then you know, I had one more push the next minute, and he encouraged me to keep pushing, and she was born, and thank God she came out vigorous and screaming and crying and moving all of her limbs, and she looked perfect. So she's out now, and you know, I'm just sitting on the toilet with her on my chest, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. Evan and I were talking, like, how did that happen? What went on? You know, she's still attached, the cord's still in place, everything, obviously, and we're just drying her off, and she's just doing her perfect little song of her cry. And shortly thereafter, EMS arrives. Maybe I think it was like 7 minutes or so after she was born. And it's first just firefighters, I guess, and then EMS comes, and I didn't quite know that. So they come, and it's like two big guys with uniforms. It's late at night. They've got walkie-talkies. They're so loud. They've got big snow boots on because it was snowing that day, of course. And I'm like, shh, be quiet, I'm gonna wake up my kids. Like, I'm totally in mama bear mode at this point. And I'm like, okay, I need to get up off the toilet. Like, let's get me moving. And they're like, no, no, don't move. And now I know it's because it was just firefighters. It wasn't the EMS yet. So they're like, still, stay there, stay there. We just have to, like, look at you. And I'm like, what? So then come EMS, and they take a couple blood pressures and look at me, and I'm like, you guys, can I please get off of this toilet? Like, everything is sore. I just want to get up and move. And they're like, oh, our protocol is we have to take some vital signs first, and we've got to cut the cord and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, protocol. Okay. So finally, they take my vital signs that my husband's able to cut the cord. And then they finally help me move off the toilet to get me transported. So they put me on this like wheelchair thing. I go down my stairs. My husband's carrying Chloe, and then they put me on a gurney, and I get into the ambulance car to take that 7-minute ride down the street to the hospital. And when we get there, we arrive in the ER, and I'm like, can't we just go straight to labor and delivery? Where I work, if a baby's been born outside the hospital and everything's fine, I'm pretty sure they just come straight to triage, labor and delivery, not to the ER. And they're like, per policy, no, we have to be in the ER. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be even more of a show, because generally, you know, the ER doesn't work with birth and pregnant people, and it was confusing. We get there, and they say this is a home birth, and you know, they're like thinking it's an emergency. And I'm like, no, no, the baby's already born. We're fine. It just accidentally happened at home. But they have me in this huge trauma bay, and there's like, you know, 2 attending physicians and a couple of residents, a couple of nurses. There's a tech who's like hooking me up to the heart monitors. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, I just had a baby. Everything's fine. Can we please get my placenta out? Because by this point, I'm cramping a lot. I know that it's ready to come out. You know, I'm sore. I'm like, can we please just get this placenta out and get me to labor and delivery and recover? So finally, everything kind of calms down when they realized, okay, this isn't a big deal. And then they realized that I was a midwife too, and they helped me deliver my placenta, and all was well. I had a little bit of extra bleeding, just because my placenta probably had been in for a while. So they gave me some fundal massage and helped me get baby to latch, and then I went up to labor and delivery. So once I got to L&D, a lovely midwife and nurses met me there. You know, they checked me to see what bleeding was stable, everything was going fine. Sutured up a small tear that I had. I finished up my recovery, did my postpartum, and all was normal after that. But it was just crazy. I think, honestly, looking back, there were 2 points. One, I could have told Evan when I was cleaning up after the Super Bowl that these cramps were feeling more painful. And then he would have been aware and maybe on my case a little bit more about, hey, it seems like you're a little bit more active than you think. And then when my water broke, after I was already cramping, like I say in my Sure Signs of Labor video, guys, we could have gotten in the car right then. Yes, our cousin wasn't here yet, but we could have called a neighbor over or whatever to be with the boys for that 15 minutes or so before she was here, because then we would have made it to the hospital in time. So again, I think it was a mix of denial. I didn't think it was real. It wasn't really painful yet. And I really didn't want her to be born on Valentine's Day, which she wasn't. and distraction, just all the other stuff that went on during the day. So that's my crazy story of how I really feel like from the first truly painful or uncomfortable contraction I had to her birth was maybe 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half even. Honestly, it can happen, I guess, even to an experienced midwife. So I just encourage you to have a supportive team, have people you can talk to. I totally should have clued my husband in much earlier. Evan, you're amazing. You were the best mid-husband, as you say, ever. He was so calm, you guys, even though I know inside he was freaking out. He was so calm throughout this whole process. So now she's here. We're about 6 weeks out, and I am just so grateful that she's happy and healthy and that I'm healthy. Honestly, I am a big advocate for birth choices, including home birth. However, again, you guys, I just want to stress the importance. If you plan to have a home birth, one, make sure that you're working closely with your midwife, your provider, that you're low risk, and make sure that, you're working with someone to be there to support you. You never know what can happen in birth, and most of the time, thank God, it goes normally. But if it doesn't, you're going to want someone there to support you and take care of you and take care of your baby. So all you home birthers out there, I hope you have an amazing team to work with you at home. I had a great team at the hospital that laughed at this story every time I told it. Just make sure you've got a good team support with you. Okay, so that's Chloe's birth story. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.